Namaste and welcome back. I am Anushka Silwal, and joining us today is Dr. Simit Sapkota, Clinical Oncologist and the Medical Director at Kathmandu Cancer Center. He's at the forefront of cancer research and treatment here in Nepal. But more than that, he's someone who sees the human side of this disease every day. Welcome to the podcast, Doctor.
Thank you, Anushka ji. Thank you for having me here.
It's our pleasure. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation.
It's indeed a pleasure.
My first question to you is why oncology? It's such a tough field, so what drew you in?
It's a very different story. So there are nothing like that, oh, I want oncology for this or that.
Yeah.
Actually, when I completed my undergraduate, so at that time I knew what I don't want to do rather than what I want to do. So at that time, I didn't want to go to any major subject. Mm-hmm. So I was looking for alternatives. Right. And at that time, I find radiation oncologist. Then I dig into the subject, and I think it's a very good subject. It had got a future. So I went in there. So that's nothing more the human side to it that I went to oncology. But yes, at that time, it was by chance.
Oh, okay. Talk about chances then. Quite a chance. Was there ever a moment where you regretted this chance or choice?
Probably first 1 month of my residency.
Of course, that was hard then.
Yeah, that was a very difficult time.
But never once you actually started practicing?
No, never.
Oh, okay. And, well, people very rarely talk about behind the scenes for, like, medicine, but there are a lot of doctors who carry with them the weight of what their patients experience, right? So for you, how do you deal with that? How do you recharge yourself after or while working in such a challenging field?
One of the golden thing I received from one of my seniors, I always feel thank to him. Mm-hmm. So when I was early in my residency, mm-hmm. Look, we are in an oncology field. There are patients who died. So yes. Sometimes we get depressed. But one of my seniors tell, guy, if you get depressed with that, then you will always be depressed throughout your life. So learn to get detached. That's the key word he gave. Yeah. Learn to get detached. Do your work 100%, but once you are done, you are done. So I think I still thank my senior for that. So I started learning detachment with the patients. So it may sound very unhuman, but actually that's true. You know?
Yeah, you need to have a level of professional detachment. Are there any practices you do, anything you really practice to maintain that balance between professional detachment and like personal empathy?
Not specifically. That's when I get home, I forget most of my work. Yeah. I get involved in my family more. So I think that's my boosters.
Yeah, so spending time, exactly. Yeah. Family always tends to do that. But going more towards personal empathy, perhaps, do you have a case or a patient story that really stuck with you, whether early on in your career or recent times?
Yeah, we're talking about detachment, so I'll just join it then. Mm-hmm. There was one young patient of mine whom I have treated almost 10 years back. Okay. So, it's easy to say you get detached, but that was a young guy of 15 and 16 years. So we got emotionally attached, But what happened is he got treated, he got cured, but every time he comes and follow up and he get a scan, every time I pull out his scan, I have a palpitation.
Yeah. That's that.
Because from my heart, I think, no recurrence for him. So, and then I realized if I get this type of feeling for every patient, my life will be gone.
That's going to be really miserable. Yeah.
So I think there was one patient I always remember. Every time I pull out his scan, I get palpitation.
Exactly. That must have been so hard to deal with as well. 10 years ago. So pretty, early. Yeah, okay. But so finding that balance is obviously hard work. And that was 10 years ago. So do you think with experience you've found it easier to find that balance, or is it something you still have to very actively work towards?
No, with experience I think it's easier now.
Yeah.
So I don't have to put much thinking about it.
Yeah.
So it becomes my second nature.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah. I always look at the armies, and when we look at the armies, I think I get inspiration from them. They are fighting, they are killing someone, and next time they are sitting cheerfully. So I actually get inspiration from the armies to how get detached from your work.
Right. And is that something that you think should be taught to all doctors, like a part of their training?
No, everybody has a different nature, so it's easy to share, but everybody has different. Some doctors like to have that empathy and get involved with each of the patients. So that's their nature. If they are comfortable with it, it's okay.
Yeah, but that must be very hard to maintain as well.
I think that's very hard to maintain.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about cancer itself. Cancer research has been moving so fast. I feel like almost every new year we hear about new cancer researches, cancer treatments, targeted therapies, and even sometimes in the past few years, AI-driven innovations. As someone who's on the forefront of all of this, what advancements really excite you about this field?
I think probably cancer is the most researched subject right now. So every now and then, every month or so, we get a new drugs we can't even pronounce.
Yeah.
Even for us, yeah.
If doctors can't pronounce, we're left nowhere.
So it's very difficult to keep up with it. But there are things going on. Some of the drugs that has come out, some new immunotherapies, that's really exciting. Suppose stage 4 cancer, 10 years back when I residency, average survival will be 12 months. But now, if you find some kind of specific mutations, we can target that, and the average survival had gone to 5 years. So.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah, that's quite a change.
Yeah. So when you look, if you are more nihilistic and say, "Oh, stage 4 cancer cannot be cured," yeah, that's one way to look at it. But if you look at the other side, 10 years back, you survived 12 months, and now you are surviving 5 years. That's
progress.
Yeah, that's definitely progress.
And well, now lately, Lately, all anyone can really talk about is AI. So have you really thought about any of these AI-driven changes, especially in the field of oncology, and what that might mean for this field?
AI has been there in the national stage, especially in my field. I'm more of a clinical oncologist, but I look at as a part of radiation oncology also. So in radiation oncology, AI was always a part of it. All the calculation, those were on software driven. But yeah, I think there are a few subjects where AI has really come to forefront, like radiology. Now the reporting are done by the AIs, and there have been many trials which are going on.
Okay.
So yes, it will replace some part of medicine.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to replace the holistic medicine.
Exactly. No, I'm sure. But this replacement thing, does it excite you or does it concern you more? Like,
no, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's always exciting. But at the end of the day, what a patient or what everyone wants, it's good for the patient. If anything is getting good for the patient, everyone is happy. I guess.
And I mean, I guess it does reduce the risk of errors and so many other things.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things where AI was used earlier in medicine was reporting of mammogram. So they found significant decrease in reporting of error by using AI. So, yes.
Okay. So with all these advancements that are going on and that will potentially go on for a very long time, do you think that cancer can become a somewhat manageable chronic illness in our lifetime?
Yes, hopefully and probably, yes. Because now we have found that cancer are all molecularly driven. So now most of the cancer, we know what molecular changes have led to the cancer.
Okay.
So things like we are slowly finding the targets for those molecules. And there are some cancer which are actually become chronic disease. So not all.
Right.
Chronic, and there are some vaccine for some cancers. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That I did not know. Okay.
So, yes, I won't say for all the cancers, but most of the cancers I think will get a cure, or I would say something like something that can control cancers for a long time.
But because of that, do you think that people will become more complacent with how they treat cancer or how they take preventative measures against it?
No, people are already complacent, so there is no chance of being more complacent. Because, everyone knows it's bad. Smoking is bad.
Yes.
Alcohol is bad, but half of does it. So people, it's human nature to be complacent. So
Right. And with all these conversations around cancer lately, we've been hearing a lot about personalized medicine. But for a lot of people, perhaps even including myself, it's still just a word that's thrown out. We don't know what exactly it means. So can you break that down for us and maybe tell us what that would look like for a patient?
So the term personalized medicine comes from that even this year, World Cancer Day is united by unique.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is every patient is individual, is unique. So last few years, the cancer had been guideline based. So we see a similar type of cancer, we give a similar type of treatment.
Okay.
But now it's known that every cancer, every individual is different. They
Mm-hmm.
can't be clumped together and treated together. So now, as I already said, there are molecule, even a lung cancer is very, very different now. It has 8 or 9 types, depending upon what type of molecular target we have. So personalized medicine means we find out what that is, and we treat that molecular targets.
Okay. And how accessible is treatments like that, are treatments like that in Nepal or similar countries compared to the West?
Most of the drugs, when they are found, that's very expensive because most of the funding has been gone into R&D. So
Right.
when they come initially, they are very, very expensive. But after a few years, they become accessible. So yes, initially they are very expensive. Dose of immunotherapy now costs around 4 to 5 lakhs.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But I think in next 2 or 3 years, it will come down significantly.
Okay, yeah. And, well, now speaking about some research that you've conducted, you've done a lot of research on HPV-related cancer. I mean, it's such an issue, but there's still a lot of stigma around it, and people don't talk much about it. So what do you think that the general public should know about this type of cancer?
So we should know that there are cancers which are actually born by infection. So we always thought of cancer as a disease, some mutations. So there are some cancers which are actually caused by infection.
Right.
So SPV is one of the major causes of it. It's a human papilloma. It's virus. It's a kind of virus.
Yeah.
And it causes different type of cancers, like cervical cancers,
Okay.
which is very common in our part of the world.
Yes.
Second most common cancer in female. Even oropharyngeal cancers, that's the cancer around tonsillar area, that's also SPV related.
Right.
And Epstein-Barr virus, that causes nasopharynx. And even hepatitis B and C, that causes liver cancer. So these are infection-related cancer. So why SPV is so important is because cervical cancer is second most common cancer in female. And the leading cause of mortality, that's it, cause more death in female due to cancer in Nepal. So there are actually vaccines which are against the SPV.
Oh, okay, yeah. So people should really be more aware of all of this.
Yes.
But they aren't, and it's mostly because of the stigma. So why do you think that there's still so much stigma around it? I mean, it's been forever since these vaccines have been around, and
so for that we should look into our society. It takes time. 20 years back, people even don't talk about tuberculosis.
right,
10 years back, no one even uttered a word of cancer.
yeah,
Right now, at least people are speaking about it. So it will take time because any new things, unless they are life-threatening, no one wants to take. So in COVID, everyone took vaccine because it said if you don't take a vaccine, you will get COVID and you can die.
yeah,
But in SPV, what happened is you are giving something which will prevent your cancer 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line. So there is no emergency in it. So then all those alternate theories comes down, and so people say, okay, we are not getting it immediately. So if someone says if you don't get vaccine, you will get cervical cancer next year, everyone will take it.
Exactly. And do you think, I mean, obviously awareness is something that can help with it, but apart from that, are there anything perhaps we can do to help this case of?
I think awareness is the most important part. Luckily for us, government of Nepal has included SPV vaccine now.
Okay, yeah.
So they are giving the vaccines. So I think I always say HPV vaccine is the best gift you can give to your next generation. So
Right.
at least you prevent one of the cancers, major cancer.
Exactly.
So awareness is the most important things.
Yeah.
And as you said, there are so many stigmas, so awareness helps to resolve this stigma.
Yeah. I mean, speaking about like these stigmas, there was a lot of stigma around mental health as well. And now it's a more talked about topic. And we know that somewhat that mental and physical health are related. Today, we say that stress can cause things like digestive issues or even immunity issues. So linking that with cancers, to what extent does your stress levels or mental and emotional well-being, what extent do those factors play a role?
For causing cancer, I don't think there's a direct relationship. But yes, cancer, after diagnosing cancers, the stress, if you see even the data, the cancer patients are, most of the cancer patients, if you see distress level, they are highly distressed.
Yeah.
And it may be due to disease, due to financial reasons, due to family reasons. So yes, after diagnosing, or people suffering from cancer has very high stress level, but stress doesn't directly cause cancers.
Mm-hmm. But like you said, is because it plays a role in it, and a lot of people get scared, rightly so. They hear the word cancer and then they're like, oh my God, this is the end. But as you've said, because of so many advancements as well, it's not always the case at this point. What sort of advice do you give to these kind of people who are facing this, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the end?
So I always say our culture is a culture of death. Because if someone die in your vicinity or somewhere in your society, you always know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So every person who died of cancer, every people close to him or her knows why he died.
Right.
But the survivors, they survive and they go back smoothly back to work.
Mm-hmm.
So what we always hear about is people dying from cancer, but we hardly hear people surviving from cancer. So I always say to my survivor, you need to speak. You need to say that, okay, we survived the cancer, because people always hear about it, but not about the life.
Yeah, that is quite. I never thought about it that way, but it's true. People don't talk about their positive experiences. They're not coming out. It's always the negative ones that are taking.
Yeah. And so there's so much stigma around that even after getting cured, they want to hide their actually disease rather than coming out.
Which is crazy to me, because I feel like that would help a lot of people talk about their experiences.
Yes. And at least people then see actually there are people who are surviving the cancers, then they have the positive attitude.
Right. So have you come across a patient or a case where their mental attitude or how strong they were mentally helped them throughout their cancer journey?
Yeah, there are cases. There's some patients which I remember were very positive to other cancer treatment. So yes, the positive attitude definitely helped them go through the cancer treatment smoothly.
Yeah. Okay.
So if a patient is on treatment and he got some side effects, so some patients take it, okay, I got the side effect, it's very bad, chemo is bad. And some patient, even they get the same side effect, they say, yeah, I know it, I'm on chemotherapy, these are expected, I'm okay with it. So who takes it lightly, who takes it positively, they go through that smoothly.
Yeah, I think it's always people's question is always, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Rather than, well, it could have happened to anyone, and these are the things that come along with it. So, well, making this a little more holistic, a lot of cancer patients and even survivors turn to things like meditation, or they make dietary changes, look into alternative healings. From a medical standpoint, how do these things help or impact their recovery or treatment?
Yeah, these things did impact in the recovery, because all these things helps in recovery, because when you have a cancer or you are going through a treatment, there are many effects that comes along that. So like you feel fatigue, you feel vomiting, nauseating, constipations. Right. And you don't like to move around, you don't like to exercise. But when you incorporate these things in your life, then you'll definitely feel good. You'll have decreased side effects. So these are proven, actually.
Yeah.
These are proven.
Okay.
Even recently there was a paper from Germany, actually. They say that if you do yoga
Mm-hmm.
along with cancer treatment, your chances of recovering from side effects are higher.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So what sort of practices do you recommend along with traditional medicine that people follow?
So, along with treatment, we ask to incorporate some kind of exercise in their life.
Right.
I think that's very important.
Okay.
So, other things, but there are also things that has gone other way around.
Oh.
So, there are people who are taking some form of Ayurvedic medicine, and they say that they will be cured by that medicine. That's not true. They will
Yeah.
help in recovery, but that's not the cure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
So
a lot
we
of
should-
people.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we should have a fine balance that what will help and what won't help.
Yeah, I think a lot of people make decisions based on imperfect information or like incomplete information, which causes a lot of issues for
Yeah.
doctors like you.
Yeah, because the world is in our finger,
Yeah.
So with the smartphone, we can access everything with our finger. So earlier they used to say world is in my hand. Now I used to say world in my finger.
Exactly.
So, but you get a lot of information, but it's very difficult for a person to know what's right and which is wrong. So.
Yeah. Well, we talked about exercise. What about diet? How important is that when?
It's also very important, actually. Lifestyle is one of the major causes of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some certain cancers, which are actually caused by lifestyle, poor lifestyle,
Okay.
like breast cancer, colon
Right.
cancer. They are directly linked to lack of exercise or obesity. So these are lifestyle cancers. So yes, diet is very important. So what you want in diet, that's a tricky part.
Yeah.
So there are things called microbiome theory. That's a
Okay.
very new concept. So they say we always say we are what we eat,
Yes.
right? So this gut bacteria actually decide what you are, what type of disease you get, what type of personality you are.
Right. Yeah.
So the hardcore microbiomist, they say, I can change anyone's personality by just transforming the microbiome. So this is a new concept coming up. So it said the more type of microbiome you have in your gut, the less chance of getting disease, even the cancers.
Okay.
So how do you get the more types? So eat less processed food and eat more raw food.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But today, in like today's climate, there's so many chemicals and things mixed with raw food that I find that a lot of, well, I don't know about in homes, but at least like when you're going out for lunch or when you're at a party, people tend to shy away from raw foods in case they get sick because of those chemicals.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. That's very true. So, yeah, that's the type of information we have to take. When I say raw food, don't go
Yeah.
and eat every raw food you get.
Exactly.
Yeah, it has to be healthy.
Yeah. Okay.
So all these things are concept.
Yeah.
Raw food helps in diversity of microbiome, but it doesn't mean you go and eat every type of raw food.
Yeah. So, considering all of this, do you think that, well, almost the present, but do you think that the future of medicine includes a more integrated approach with other holistic approaches as well?
Yes, it should be.
Yeah.
It should be, and it would be. So, because now, as I said, there are different theories coming at that. Yes, we are not treating only a disease; we are treating also a person.
Right.
So, for disease, we have specific drugs. For person, we need this type of approach, holistic approach.
Yeah. And, well, we talked about diet, we talked about exercise. Are there any other lifestyle changes, major ones at least, that people should be making to for cancer prevention?
Yeah, the one major thing that people can do is stop smoking.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
bet.
And yeah, but now there are alternative form of smoking like vaping and hookah,
Right.
which much young teenagers think they are safe,
Yeah.
and that's actually marketed that way.
Mm-hmm.
So they are not safe at all.
Exactly.
So,
No, I get very annoyed at this whole vaping culture because at least the way that I felt about my generation was we had almost gotten rid of the whole smoking problem, and then
Yes.
we came up with vaping,
Yes.
and then a whole new epidemic, I think.
Yes, I think it's now banned in most of the country. Hopefully, Nepal will do it soon.
Yeah. And well, we've been discussing cancer patients and survivors so far, but cancer isn't just something that impacts one individual. It impacts the people around them, their families, their friends. And apart from the physical aspects of the disease, there are so many emotional impacts of it as well. We touched upon this briefly, but how do you help a patient and their family navigate through the emotional impact of the disease?
So when someone gets a cancer, there are different phases. The first phase is always a denial.
Right.
As you said, why me?
Exactly.
So it's not true.
Yeah.
So as a doctor, we also know that these are different phases patient will go through. So we can't just push them, no, you have a cancer. So everything, we need to take time. So earlier, in our culture, there's most of the patient's family say that don't tell to my patients, don't tell to my father, mother,
Yeah.
they are very weak, they can't tolerate that. So, there is so much inner tension going between this family because the patient knows that he has something bad, but no one is telling him.
Yeah.
So now mostly we tell the patient that you have a cancer, at least you have a cancer, and we are going to treat him. So yes, there are different phases. So I think as a doctor, what we want to give is the right information.
Exactly.
So, and there are so many alternatives now, even for treatment. So we give them the right alternatives, right? We give them the path. And now most of the patients choose their own path. So, okay, I want to go that path. But yeah, there are some, even patients, there are some patients who are, they don't know much about it. They say, whatever you do best for me is true. So sometimes we choose best decision for our patients. Sometimes patients choose themselves. But we give them different alternatives and different paths.
And do you think it's better when, well, obviously there are pros and cons to both, but do you think it's better when a doctor is able to choose for the patient because the patient says you choose, or when the patient themselves make the choice?
It's better if the patient makes the choice. Because, as a patient or as a layman, people may think that doctor will make the right decisions. But in medicine, nothing is black and white.
Yeah.
There are gray areas. So even as a doctor, we don't know what's right for the patient.
Right. Yeah.
So so we'll give them option. So sometimes we choose them for if they say, okay, you choose me for us, we do it for them. But I think if a patient chooses themselves, that's better for them.
In places like Nepal, families get very involved. They're like, we want to know everything, we want to help make the choices. Does that hinder what kind of treatment you do, or like make it more difficult for the patient?
Yes, actually, you said right. I said patient actually is the family who chooses most of the time, 90% of time.
Exactly.
So it's only 10% of time actually patient chooses what he wants to do.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, I won't say hindrance because that's how our society is built.
Yeah.
Because without family, the patient cannot go through that treatment.
Agreed.
So I think patients should have at least right to know what's going on. But I think involvement of family is best thing that we can have.
Yeah, and the patient may not be in the state of mind to make that decision.
Yeah.
So there's also pros to that.
Yes, yeah. There are many pros to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes only the patient is kept in so dark that we feel as a doctor, okay, I want to give more information to patient. But I think the involvement of family is the best thing that can happen to the patient actually.
Yeah, and you talked about how sometimes the patients are kept in the dark. Have you seen cases when the families are kept in the dark? The patient knows, but they don't want to tell other people.
Yeah, that happened, yes. But as a doctor, it's our duty to tell the patient. So if the patient they don't want to tell the family, we are bound to that. So we don't tell the family. But now we tell the patient, even if family doesn't want so.
Well, there's also a lot of misinformation around cancer. I mean, I am very far removed from cancer, but I keep hearing things like, oh my God, sugar makes cancer worse, or like sunscreen causes cancer, and so many things like that. So what are some of the biggest myths that you'd like to bust today here?
Yeah, as you said, there are many myths about cancer.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest myths is cancer, if a patient gets a cancer, he will die.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the biggest myth.
I agree.
It's not true, actually, as I already said, because we heard about the death, but we don't heard about the life. So I think we should be discussing more about the life. So another myth which we get is cancer communicable disease, or is it transferred from one person to another? So we have patients patient family who come with patients, and when the patient go out, they sneak in and say, we go to same toilet, does it affect us? So I want to say that it's not a communicable disease. So you don't have to worry about it. It's not transferred from one person to another by sitting together, sleeping together, or eating together. So that's another myth. And other is that's another one myth which I frequently come across. Patients say, actually biopsy गर्यो भने त यो एकदमै फैलिन्छ नि त भनेर. So I get a lot of questions about it. So that's actually also not true, So because before that you weren't diagnosed with cancer. Now you're diagnosed with cancer, so it will grow rapidly even if you do a biopsy or not.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that one actually. Do you know how people came across that misconception? Because it's a very strange idea to have.
I don't know. So I think when they do a biopsy, probably everyone knows and everyone sees.
Yeah.
So woman can have a breast lump and she can stay with that for years.
Right. Yeah.
So, but once it is diagnosed, everyone knows. Okay, she has a breast cancer. So everyone is looking that. Okay, how does it go? So maybe that is one of the case.
And do you think, I mean, I know we talked about HPV-related stigma, but is there still stigma? Is there stigma with just cancer, like not related to HPV?
Yes, there is. Yes, definitely there is. So I have seen family broken with the diagnosis of cancers. I have seen husband leaving their wife with the diagnosis of cancers.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, there are. So, because most of the country is very poor, so maybe the partner, maybe family are not able to get the burden of that cancer. So I've seen people leaving their close one after the diagnosis of cancer.
And do you think that's just because of not being able to carry the burden, or is it also because of a little bit of victim blaming?
Victim blaming, I don't see much that in cancers.
Okay, I'm glad.
Yeah. So yes. Unlike other disease, so in cancers, there is not much of victim blaming. Well, I don't see that much. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of good. We talked about myths, and there's so many, but is there one that you find that even educated people believe in, like something just...
I can't think of...
That's fine. We've discussed a few already as well.
Yeah.
And while this is not exactly a myth, but a lot of people believe that cancer is due to just bad luck or genetics, like there's not much one can do. How much of it is actually under our control?
I think it's kind of true.
Okay.
You need to be unlucky to get a cancer, but there are things which you can change. So just by saying that it's completely out of luck, that's a very inappropriate statement. So there are things we can change. Like I said, 1/3 of the cancer is tobacco related.
Okay, yeah. Wow, that's a huge amount.
And if you add alcohol to it, it's 40% of cancers.
Okay, wow.
So 40% of cancers are actually preventable.
Yeah.
And 5 to 10% are lifestyle related. So almost 50% of cancer are actually preventable. So yes, so people will say, okay, my close relative or someone from my family have smoked over many years, but he didn't get a cancer.
Yeah.
So yes, you need to have 2 bad lucks, I will say. Yeah. But if you see from our point of view, 90% of patients we see of lung cancer are due to tobacco related.
Yeah.
So yes, there are 50% of cancer which can actually be prevented by smoking related and lifestyle related.
Well, for all the people listening, let's hope that motivates them to quit some of these habits. But what about genetics?
Yes, the genetics play a role in 5 to 10% of cancers.
Okay.
So they are genetically transferable. So there are a few genetic conditions where cancers get from two offsprings.
Okay, yeah.
So one of the major one is the breast
Cancer.
It's a kind of a gene, BRCA gene, which get transferred from parents to children, and they get that. So yes, but it's if you look at the whole, it's 5 to 10% only.
So even for those with a family history, there are things they can do to reduce the risk.
Yes. And now, actually, we can get all these BRCA genes tested. So we actually get in if it's actually genetically related,
or not.
And we do all the preventions.
Yeah. So speaking about these early detections and things, one of the major reasons for cancer survival is early detection.
True,
but
very true.
Exactly. But in Nepal and so many other countries as well, screening rates are still so very low. What kind of screenings should people be getting done, and at what ages?
So I will add that one of the myths that people come with saying that, okay, there is one test I have heard in Facebook that say you can screen every cancer. So is it true? So that's not actually true. There are some cancers which we can screen.
Okay.
And actually there are only 4 which are internationally recognized for screening.
Okay.
One is cervical cancer.
Mm-hmm.
For that we do pap smear and SPV screening. One is breast cancer.
Yeah.
For that we do mammogram. One is colon cancer. For that we do either colonoscopy or stool blood, occult blood. We'll say that. Actually, we see blood in stool.
Okay.
So another is lung cancers.
All right.
So for next question, you said for what are the recommendations?
Yeah.
So there are different recommendations. So, but they are more in lieu with each other. So for breast cancers, you should start a screening at 40 years.
Okay.
Do it yearly for 40 to 49 years, then do it 2 yearly up to 65 years.
Okay.
So, and what we actually misunderstood about screening is that screening is meant when you have symptoms. Most people think like that, but that's not true. Screening is when you don't have symptoms and go and check. Mm-hmm. So if you are 40 years old, go and get a mammogram. For cervical cancers, international standard is you start screening at 21 years, do it every 3 years.
Yeah.
So cervical cancer, as we already discussed, is SPB related, and it's more sexually transmitted.
Right.
So for Nepal, it's a national guideline is a little different. So we start at 25.
Okay.
So since the uptake is so low, actually, government plan was to get 70% screening by 2030.
Oh.
But right now it's 6 to 8%.
6 to 8%. Oh.
So they have kept bar so low that they say you should screen at least once every 10 years.
Wow.
For Nepal, that's the national guideline.
Yeah.
For colon, you should start after 45, do colonoscopy every 10 years.
Okay. Yeah.
And for lung, if you are a smoker, you have smoked over 20 years, then only you are eligible for screening.
Okay.
So that's a kind of CT, low dose CT.
Right.
So these are only the standard screening for cancers.
And, well, you said people don't, as soon as while they don't feel the symptoms, people don't go in and they don't do any of these screenings. So how can we motivate them to go in? What would you say to people like that?
So screening rates has always been low.
Yeah.
Because as I said, that's human nature. Unless you get a problem, you don't want to get into it. Yeah. There's this famous saying, don't trouble the trouble until trouble troubles you.
Yeah.
So unless you get a trouble, people don't go into it. But yes, how did we need to get in the success story? How did the developed country get people into screening? It's awareness.
Okay.
It's awareness. You need to give campaigns. You need to advertise. You need to show people what you get by screening.
Yeah.
What are the benefits? So there is no alternative to that.
Yeah. And in countries, I mean, obviously awareness is an issue, but is awareness more of an issue, or is accessibility also an issue? Not just in Nepal, but other countries like this too?
It's more of awareness, because if it was for accessibility, then at least the people who had accessibility would have done it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was actually a question in one of my last talk. So
Right.
there were people from even our center, they were very, very educated people. And I just asked, how many of you have actually done screening?
it,
And there
yeah.
was less than 10%, even in the most educated part of society.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a awareness rather than accessibility.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I'm trying to think of people that I know who might have done a screening, and I don't think I can think of almost any.
That's very low, very low. 6
Yeah.
to 8% of population, targeted populations is very, very low.
Yeah. Can you think of a story where an early screening may have really helped someone's cancer battle or anything like that? So just so people can take inspiration from that.
Yeah, actually, we get it day to day, so it's not.
Okay.
So there are people who are screened, and there are people we find it in pre-cancer stage,
Oh, that's
especially in
great.
pap smearing. So yes, there are many people who get screened where we find pre-cancer stage, we treat them, and they get back into their life, nice and smooth.
Oh, well, how lovely for them. Well, working in oncology, you have clearly witnessed life and death up pretty closely. So how has that impacted your own life's philosophy?
So yes, working in oncology it did impact in your psyche, because if you say I always when I sit in OPD,
Yeah.
so 50% of patients who sit in front of me never survive beyond 2 years.
Right.
That's the data we have.
Yeah.
So yes, it definitely get into your psyche. But now, actually, it makes you more realistic about life.
Mm-hmm.
So you know the inevitability of the death.
Yeah.
One day or the other, it will come to everyone.
Right.
So yes, it will. I think it will make you more grounded.
Right.
And look life more like not as a competition and not as a big thing, or just live the life.
Yeah. And are there any practices that you've been practicing, whether like meditation or anything into spirituality, just to keep that center balanced for yourself?
So yes, there are times,
Yeah.
but not regularly, I would say.
Yeah.
So there are times where I also want to explore more meaning of life and death, especially in early part of my career, during early part of my residency, when we went into oncology. I see a lot of life and after death. I used to read a lot of books about
Okay.
life and death, especially the Tibetan books. They have more into this life and death. I used to read the Tibetan book of living, the Tibetan book of living and death. There are many
wow.
books, so which give you more meaning of life and death. But I think these are in patches. So I don't
Right.
read regularly.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you have a pretty hectic schedule. I don't think, yeah. So for anyone getting into this field of oncology, what kind of advice would you give them to just for one to keep this sort of balance, but also as a doctor, as a mentor?
I think this is a quite exciting field.
Yeah.
So there are different things. One of the complaint I always hear from the doctors, other field doctors, it's so similar. You get to do day in and day out similar things. But
Right.
in oncology, there are so many research going on. So it's changing.
Yeah.
So you need to get updated. So it's good. Sometimes, as I said, people say, okay, the cancer patients, they are not much survival, especially now part of the world where most of the patients come at fourth stage. Yes. But yes, it's not only about surviving.
Yeah.
It's about how you give quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
So you get that happiness every day
Right.
for
So-
helping people.
Yeah, exactly. I think I have a few friends who are med students, but a lot of them, I think, get also intimidated by this field of oncology. To them, what do you want to say?
I think one of the reasons is because we don't have oncology curriculum in undergraduate. So
Okay.
during our MBBS,
Right.
or even for now, they never get into the but they would never get to know what oncology is all about.
Right.
So they always think oncology, they always look oncology from outside.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get oncology curriculum in undergraduate, there will definitely more people getting into oncology.
Okay, yeah, well then that's something we can probably change. You talked about how in this part of the world, there are people who mostly come in on their fourth stages of cancer and things like that. So that's clearly more depressing than the West, where people are doing early screenings.
Yes.
Did you ever feel motivated to go to that part of the world to practice?
No. No, I haven't thought about it actually. So
Yeah.
I'm happy with what I'm doing here.
Mhm.
So never thought about it.
And to all these youngsters who are going out there to practice.
As I said, every individual is different. So
Yeah.
I can't pitch on someone that what they want in life.
Yeah.
So, yes, there are good things here. There are good things there also. There are bad things here. There are bad things here. So
Of
it's
course.
how you look about your life.
Okay, yeah. Well, as we're nearing the end of our podcast, I want to ask you one of my most favorite questions to ask doctors. Do you think that spirituality and science can coexist, especially in medicine?
Yes, it can.
Mm-hmm.
So spirituality is part of life.
Right.
So is science.
Okay. Yeah, I like that answer.
So we can't divide it. So somewhere down the line, spirituality has to come, especially in subject like ours, oncology.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the things what I have now realized is that our culture is more toward the death.
Mm-hmm.
So we believe in the past life. We believe in Atma.
Yes.
So I think somewhere we have detached it from it. We are not ready to get into death. So now we are running away from death.
Mm-hmm.
So people, they don't accept death now.
Okay. Yeah.
But unlike West, which culture is single life.
Mm-hmm.
So when they know that okay, this is some in the stage of cancer, they accept.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And they say, okay, I have 1 month to live, I will live my life this way. But somehow I find now in Nepal, people are not ready for that.
Right.
So there's a term called dignified death
Mm-hmm.
in medicine. So we see less and less dignified death in our part of the world. So that's very worrying actually. Because to give life is as important as to give a dignified death in oncology, especially in palliative care.
Right.
So that's one part where actually I want to make more progression. And I think spirituality is in forefront of that.
Yeah. Do you have any spiritual practices that you like to, practice?
No, as I say, I do this in patchy work. So I used to do meditation for some times.
Right.
So I used to do Reiki back in 1999.
Oh wow! Exactly.
That's 25 years back.
Yeah.
So yes, sometimes in life I want to explore different part of life, but I don't do it regularly. Yes.
Would you say all those practices, holistic practices, let's call them, that you took part in 25 years ago, did they in any way change how you look at oncology?
It's very difficult to correlate because that was before all this.
Yeah.
But I think they have more given a more realistic vision to life.
Okay. Yeah. Well, speaking about spiritual practices and all of this, has a patient's spiritual belief ever, have you seen it ever really impact their recovery, maybe made things more difficult or easier for you or themselves?
Yes, definitely. Because the spiritual person, they are more open to accepting anything.
Okay.
So the spiritual person are more open to accept side effects. So more open to accept even the recurrences. So yeah, I have seen people because our culture is so varied.
Yeah.
So sometimes we see patient from different culture. So even in hospitals, sometimes they bring up their spiritual leader. Yeah, we know that, but as a part of the society, we sometimes say, okay, do it, whatever makes them happy.
Yeah.
So they do even those spiritual healings inside our hospital. So we have seen that.
Wow. Okay.
So I think, but I find those patients more relaxed. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, my final question to you then is that if there was anything about cancer that you wish people understood more, what would that be?
I think awareness is the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to talk more about cancer as a disease, not as
Right.
something, a final nail in the coffin, what we say.
Yeah.
So we need to talk more about cancers. But when you talk more about cancers, then we know there are different screening part,
Mm-hmm.
there are different vaccinations, as I said. So it's more awareness, and we need to discuss more about cancer.
Yeah, because all these discussions then, like we said, maybe then it can be a more manageable chronic illness.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sapkota. This has been an insightful and very interesting conversation. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and giving us so much to think about. I'm very pleased you could join us today.
It was really very, very insightful to me also, because there are some things which even I hadn't discussed for a long time.
I'm glad you had a good time. Healing isn't just about medicine. It's about awareness, action, and even occasionally rethinking your life choices. So if you've resonated with today's episode, please share it with someone else who might need it. Thank you so much, and until next time, take care. Namaste.